All right. Well, guys, last day of collision. How are we feeling?
Emotionally traumatized by the last few days. It's been enjoyable, but a lot of late nights.
Yeah, it feels a little weird seeing you on stage and not at the bar, where I think we've run into each other about 7 times now.
I don't want to succumb to racial stereotypes, but they're pretty accurate in this case, to be honest.
You guys are impressive. Like, I think there should be an entire conference on that last year, the art of drinking from the members of Collision. Yeah, so to jump into it, we have so many startups here. We have hundreds of startups. How do you actually craft a message that allows you to stand out?
To me? To her?
Someone's got to answer the question.
I'll jump. I think if you understand a little bit psychologically, I've met a lot of guys in the corridors pitching, and they'll come up and they nearly explode. They're like, I represent a company, and we got this widget thing, and it's like a Series A, and then we did a Series B. We're at a serious stage of funding, and we met a guy, and we're really good, and I'd like to talk to you about it. You're like, Jesus Christ, man, calm down. You're like, take it easy, take a deep breath. I know you've got a story in there. I know you're going to be able to tell it. And a lot of the time, it's just really finding that in an organic way and presenting to something everybody you're really passionate about, and not coming to an event like this and relying, putting it in a press release that's like just a big long series of those exact same things. It's nearly like reading your resume to someone, whereas if you have a business, you have a story to tell. Like there was something cool that made you go, screw it, I'm going to dedicate the next few years to doing this, and I really want to hear that in a bit more of a concise form and a bit more of a slower pace.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
So have you guys heard, any pitches here that actually stood out to you, or has it been a lot of jargon and buzzwords and over-caffeinated sales reps?
Well, it's funny, there was a fan, were you in the main stage for the pitch winning the tree? They were really, really good, and at the end, one of the guys said it was a management tool, basically, to identify skills development for managers and improve them, and he's like, I used to be a bad manager, and the sick little part of my mind that's a human being wants to know, how bad a manager were you? What did you screw up? I want to know about that, because behind that is the core of the thing that made this whole company possible. So I really just, maybe it's just an Irish thing. We're like, go on, tell us, how bad was it? But I really wanted to know, and I think you guys want to know as well. And a lot of the time, just starting with that compelling, this is what caused me to change everything, that is all you need. Like, and just put the numbers or the icing on the cake. Like, don't just jump on someone with a bunch of figures. Well, very hard to remember them.
Yeah, and I think that brings up something interesting, which is that so much of your startup message is like your story as a founder, right? And Ashley, you have a talent management startup, talent management company. You work with folks like Wyclef who are here. What do you think startups can learn from those individuals and how they brand themselves?
So I think it's really important to take a step back and remember why you wanted to do this in the first place. You're going to have strategy that's thrown at you, people with money who are going to tell you to shift your messaging and shift what you believe in. And at your core, there was a reason why you started doing what you're doing, why you believed in whatever it is that is the company that you want to build. And the talent that we work with, whether it's Sophia Bush, Alicia Reiner, Alicia Keys, we always talk about going back to who they were as individuals at their soul and their core. And that helps us reset and remind us what it is that we want to do, what our strategic vision was that we set out when we wanted to build this personal brand, and also the companies that we want to build with this talent. Part of what we do is we do business development with a lot of our clients as well. So we actually start and build companies from the bottom up. And we have to sit and do exactly what all of you guys do. And what I have always found with us has been never forget what it is you stood for, because you're going to get nervous and you're going to get worried that you're going to run out of money. Your runway is coming to an end. Your funding's coming short. You need to go get new money, go get new investors, and they'll say, hey, can you add this on? Can you add that on? Why aren't you talking about this? And you'll say, yes, I'll take it, I'll do it, I'll go for it, just to get the more money. And you end up shifting and losing sight of what you stand for and what your core brand message is, ultimately.
So how do you strike that balance? Because I remember, I work for Contently, we're a content marketing technology company. When I started, we were like 4 people, and money is always an issue when you're that young, right? And you go to like an HSBC or a JP Morgan Chase, and they're asking you for features, and you're like, yeah, like we can do that. We'll like have that done next week. And sometimes you overpromise, and sometimes it deviates from your actual core mission of what you want your product to be, because you want to promise like anything that'll get people to like give you money and be your customers, so you can show better numbers to your board and show better numbers to investors. So how do you strike that balance between doing the things you need to do to get that funding, to get those clients, and also actually stay true to what you want your business to be?
Right. I think it's really important to remember that less is more. And the more that you try to answer to multiple masters and deliver multiple verticals for whatever company that it is you have, you're not going to be as successful as if you truly focused on one core element and built that out for your core consumer. And if you're going to a JP Morgan's or an HSBC's, then I would challenge you to look at alternative ways to get funding. And maybe those aren't the right individuals, those aren't the right corporations, and look at connecting with people on a human level. We're seeing this shift, right, from startups and from the way people interact, from being less about the product, right, and more about interaction and more about the humanity of everything as we move into this crazy, crazy world that we live in today.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah, kind of crazy, right?
But it's funny, it sounds like a mad tangent, but if you get lost, like you can't relate to a big collection of buzzwords. You really relate to that core story. And who's the person in it? You guys are probably familiar with Charity Water. If you've seen them, like they're very effective in leading with the story of a person that you can connect to. So like nobody cares about your story. It's kind of sad, but we like to see ourselves in other people's story. So you really got to put them in the position of that person and feel like it. Like they have to be able to see themselves in your shoes. And the key thing with that is details, never facts and figures. So we were talking last night, seems like a bit of a tangent, about learning Spanish in a bar at a questionable late hour of the night, as Joey posted out. By round of show of hands, how many people speak Spanish? Sounds a bit random. Wow, all you guys. Whoa. So the word for to fit in Spanish is caber. Right? Correct the Irish person speaking Spanish, it's probably going to go horribly wrong. But the word is caber, and it sounds like a tangent to it. And if I try and teach you that word or ask you to remember it, like any key fact and figure you ever pitch or present, you just can't latch onto that as a word. But if you put it as a little story, and you break it up in your mind to 2 words that sound familiar to an English speaker, so you have cab and bear, it's not just any tag. You want to picture a yellow New York straight taxi cab, the kind of bubble-shaped one, driving down the street, and he pulls over, and this hairy bear tries to get into the taxi cab. Like the hairy bear does not fit in the taxi cab, so his big hairy bear's bottom is sticking out the window, and the driver's shouting at him like, "Bear, what are you doing? Get out of the taxi cab." I don't know, that's a very suspicious accent, to be honest. I don't know what it is. But you're putting some details on there that allows you to picture a cab bear. The bear does not fit in the cab, and for the rest of your life, you'll remember that. The details there allow you to visualize it. And if you're up on stage going, we got a 50% year-on-year growth, oh, we got buzzwords, we got client recognition, I mean, we got a team, we got a great team, it's really amazing. I don't know what the hell you said. And I meet you in the pub later on, I'm gonna run away. And it takes a lot to scare an Irish person out of a pub. We'll stay there. We only left when they closed last night. But if I can't retell your story, you have to spend a ton of money on marketing. You have to spend a ton of money on PR. You probably have to hire an agency, and you waste a ton of money just by putting out facts and figures. Like, facts and figures are not going viral. Oh my God, that company has a 40% year-on-year growth rate. Whoa, yeah. But they just don't jump on that.
I think building on that.
Sorry, I told you it was a tangent. I did warn you. Sorry, it's Spanish classes.
I think it's important to answer the question of why do I care, right? Instead of telling me what you have, instead of telling me your facts and figures, tell me why I care. And what's going to make my life better from what it is that you have, right? Each of us, you have a brand mission statement, you've got your brand promise, you all know what that is, right? But you can't forget the whole idea of the word brand. It means really one thing, and that is a promise kept. And that's a promise kept to your consumers, that's a promise kept to your investors, yourself, around what you started when you started this company. So Joe, to your question, like we've heard a lot of pitches here. Is there a company that jumped out at me, right? I'd say, I met this guy named Tom McLeod who has this company called Omni out of San Francisco. And they are a moving and storage company, right? And they will sit there and they'll come to your house, they'll move everything out of your apartment, and then they'll store it for you. And then they will record everything and put it on their website. And so when you need something, you go on their website, you tell them you want your kid's baseball mitt when it's, January and baseball season's gonna start, and they come and they bring it to you for this monthly fee. And I'm like, oh, as a New Yorker, all I care about is space, ease, and someone that's gonna do something for me because my life is fucking crazy as it is. So this guy just made my life really easy because he appealed to what I care about. Time, ease, and clarity and trust, right? So I was like, sign me up. Where can I sign up? And how can you meet my clients so we can all invest? When are you coming to New York? And how can we help you expand to Los Angeles and Miami? Because you're gonna solve a problem which is real in urban areas. And you hit me where I care, which is you're gonna make my life easier and better. So don't forget that, right? When you're talking to people, when you run into them walking down the hallway and you wanna find the right thing to say, first, let us know why we care. Hit us why we care.
You can just hit them.
Don't
That'll
hit me.
slow us
hit him.
down. It gets the attention. Start with Hordo.
No, hit with him.
And I think it's a really good point in that a lot of startups focus their message on like what the product is. Like, we're a B2B SaaS platform that leverages AI in the cloud to provide insights on a subscription model. And
What the fuck does that even mean?
Yeah, and
Like, we're humans, right? Talk normal. Don't like.
There's a good lesson in that of what you're saying. When you're trying to craft this story, you can't be the hero in the story. So you're a company. So if you're thinking Batman and Robin, you are Robin. And most companies make that mistake. You just have to showcase how you made a particular person's life easier. So if Charity Water is so good at doing that, like I literally am having a hard time drinking this without thinking about it and seeing the visuals they used of a particular person to do the story. So like that stuff, it stays with you. And when you communicate it to a journalist, they get excited about it. And when we were talking backstage, how do you actually get your message out when you're at a place like this in your story? I don't know if you guys noticed, but a lot of journalists are contributors. They're not actually full-time paid journalists. And they're under pressure a lot of the time to produce 4 to 6 articles a month. And a lot of them don't actually get paid. So they're quite happy to put stories through that you've actually written for them. So I mean, if you research their style and write something that looks like they could press print, and that's not something that's a bunch of facts and figures, because that does not make them look like they researched a story. So by doing that, you will get initial press everywhere to cover your story by telling it. But start by targeting contributors, because it's very hard to get a full-time staff writer to get very excited about your story, especially if there's no details in there. I don't know how much of a hack it is, but I just didn't know that. And I was like, wow, these guys will happily print whatever I send them. Even if, and I'm dyslexic, I write some serious gobbledygook and I send it out and I've seen it turn up in Forbes the next day and I'm like, whew, that's crazy.
yeah, to be fair, anyone can post in Forbes though.
Yeah,
Like,
but I don't think people know that originally, and it's still the credibility. You write for Forbes, I was writing for Inc., I can't even write. And they open access to the platform, and people would hit me up, and they're like, I'm a B2B SaaS, whatever. I'm like, how do I turn that into a story? Because it has to be a short-form story. So just tell me something about it, and do that as your press release. It will actually work. And I would encourage you to check out a company called Betabrand out of San Francisco. They are phenomenal at just getting news for free. No PR team, no real stories, just newsjacking every week. And they do it, and they send it to every journalist as a press release, but it just looks like a beautifully written, short, funny story. The images are there. The credit for the images is there. Something quirky is in there. I mean, brilliant. Probably the best company I've ever seen in the world for getting PR for free with no PR team.
You mentioned being funny. I'd love to talk
You're
about
funny.
that more because that's that's your business, right? Like you do these business conferences where you teach brands to not be stodgy and boring and actually use humor to tell their story. I'll plug in your business right here.
Thanks very much.
So do startups tend to take themselves too seriously? A lot of times there's this temptation of like, oh, I need to seem really buttoned up. I need to seem serious. I need to seem like someone, that you should actually trust giving, me your money. are startups and brands too afraid to kind of let their hair down and be funny?
Yeah, I think of it like it's kind of like, you have your LinkedIn profile and you're super serious, and then you go out in the weekend, get completely smashed, and I have no idea what ends up on Instagram. You can't treat those as two separate things. Like, your boss is going to find them. And I think a lot of brands are like, we have a tone, we're serious. I mean, we're in an age where we will buy insurance, something that guards your life if something goes wrong, from a talking lizard. How did that happen? Like, insurance is the new beer commercials. They're like the hottest thing. You're like, this is the most boring thing ever. And they're kind of funny. It's off topic. It shouldn't work, but it works beautifully. And the list of companies who are doing this is huge, but the smart ones are beginning to realize that, like people, you're different ways on different platforms. You're not going to use LinkedIn like Snapchat. And companies, sometimes, they get very stuffy, and we're like, oh, we're not like that. You can experiment on any of those platforms. Like, people are really, it doesn't feel like marketing. The best PR doesn't feel like PR. The best marketing doesn't feel like marketing. The best chatbots don't feel like chatbots. It's just, it has to go in the same way. So you can always have fun with something. If you think you have nothing funny to talk about, by the way, for you, if it's embarrassing for you, it's funny for me.
Right. And I'd say, if you're going to reach out to any of us, or especially me, I can't talk for you. But
reach out to her. I don't like email.
Don't reach out on LinkedIn. Don't reach out the way everybody else reaches out to us, right? Find a way that's different. Find something that stands out. If I tell you how many LinkedIn messages I get, and I have virtually zero profile on LinkedIn because I would get...
My friend Phil is laughing down there because I spent yesterday convincing him to use this automated hacker tool on LinkedIn that messages people on your behalf while you're sitting here. I think mine's doing it right now. And it's called GPZ. It's a tool that allows you to do it, and you get some serious traction with it if they're well written. So don't give the facts and the figures, something quirky, and they will respond. It looks personalized. But if you were looking for a little hack, but people are used to boring stuff. Like, in your emails, the PS section is the most read. Like, have some fun with it. Like, the company, in MailChimp, everybody has the disclaimer, like, rights owned by. I wrote somebody working at a Nigerian bank for our company, and the amount of emails I get about there, like, oh, dude, I like that. That was good. And it's just little bits of humor in places where people were never expecting them, and a boring medium like LinkedIn that normally traumatizes you through your messages, but if it's a well-written message, you'll read it.
Yeah. Well, I would further say, to your point, I'd rather have you send me something on Snapchat that is interesting, different, hysterical, something, than send me a LinkedIn message or tweet me, DM. Don't do that. Like, hit me in a way that no one else does. Make me stop and think about why I should pay attention to you.
And here's another good hack for that one on GPZ. Amazon. Any author you really enjoy in life, authors are strangely accessible. I didn't notice until I had the misfortune to write a book, but they live or die by Amazon reviews. And if you leave an Amazon review for an author you like, and then you email it to them and tell them you left them that review, on Amazon, if you write a review, you're able to change it later. So now I know you wrote a review, and if I don't write back to you, you might be like, actually, I liked your book, but now I think it sucks. Because you didn't write back to me. 2 stars, this sucks. Actually, no, 1. And those guys will write back to you forever because you're one of the few people. The best-selling book on Amazon, authors live or die by them, might get like 100 reviews sometimes, even though it sold 40,000 copies. So if you're one of those people, I've already done it to 2 people I met at this conference, and they will write back. But it's a good... It's a bit cheeky, but you're looking for techniques to get your message out there, and you're a startup, like, you have to hack this process. There's so much volume coming at people. You know this better than anyone.
No, I believe in being real. I believe in being human.
I'm totally real. That's real. I'll read the book.
I don't want you to hack anything. I want you to, like, come at me as a human, right? We've become so tech-oriented, right? We all operate in these social networks that we've all forgotten how to communicate as humans on face-to-face. So when you guys get in that pitch room and you guys want money, you forget how to operate with us face-to-face and be human and just talk. So I don't know. For me, at least, don't hack anything. Be human. Explain to me why I should care.
I hack and be human. You can mix them. Do you guys know the word in Spanish for to fit? You guys are real good at Spanish. Hack and be human. You can mix them.
Actually, one hack that I did once to get an interview with someone pretty famous is I just started commenting, mentioning them in Drake's Instagram comments, and that got their attention. So that's another hack you can do.
No, you will, you man. I mean, when I started a conference, I just like watching TED Talks. So I was like, how do I reach out to all my favorite funny TED speakers and convince them all to come and speak at a conference with no budget? How do I get people to turn up? It was being real. It was telling the story of what we were doing, and they bought into that story. It was like, hey, I want to create this thing. But it was always a mix. Like, you got to find their email somewhere. You probably have to hack that. You don't have it to start with. It's like hunter.io or one of those services. They will give you the person's email. And then you can be real, write them a real message and real follow-up. Most people never follow up. I was on the press list for these conferences a few years ago, and I only ever got a press release once, usually. Like, it was only about 10% of companies followed up. And it wouldn't be unusual for me to follow up with somebody up to 50 times. I think I kind of give up around 60. But the more they just feel more guilty, the more you go, hey, just checking in. Hey, are you still alive? Getting kind of worried about you. The Web Summit guys, Brendan will tell you, I wrote to him, I was like, hey, you haven't wrote back to me. I'm assuming you're dead, so I'm having a small funeral in your honor next Tuesday, and I'm going to start inviting your family, and if you're still alive, it could be really awkward, so please write back. I wrote back within 4 minutes. I screenshotted it, and it was the middle of the night, and he's here somewhere, so. But you got to be a little bit scrappy. Yep.
I'm both really excited and really terrified to connect with you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, it's a scary place.
All right, we have about 30 seconds left. So quickly, one tweetable piece of advice for pitching.
Be human.
Everyone tweet it.
Tweet them. Allow your audience to see themselves in your shoes.
All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. This was definitely one of the more interesting conversations.
Thank you very much.